side of the slides, and I'm going to hide the floating meeting controls, which are on the top. And there's another little box that shows up, but it disappears after 5 seconds or so, and we can start showing things. I'm going to reiterate what I said last time because this presentation, unlike the last one, contains a lot of URLs and QR codes. If you have taken the opportunity to learn how to scan QR codes, then you already know that it gives you a great way to access a URL or other information that is available on the web without typing a URL and without typos. What you're looking at here is an example of a QR code. It happens to give you access to the homepage of my user group, the Potomac Area Technology and Computer Society. All QR codes are square in shape and have 3 boxes, 2 on the top corners and 1 on the bottom left corner. So that's how you can recognize them and tell them from other types of QR codes. There are other square QR codes. If you have gone to the hospital recently or accompanied someone to the hospital, at least here in Northern Virginia, when they get that band on their wrist, their patient ID is embedded in a square code called an Aztec. So there are lots of different codes out there. This is the video that I mentioned that was recorded by APCUG of a presentation I did on how to use QR codes and in particular how to scan them with your smartphones. The video portion that teaches you how to do it with your smartphone starts at 20 minutes. And although this says it ends at 32 minutes and 28 seconds, it's actually divided into 2 6-minute parts, one for iPhones and one for Android phones. So it doesn't really take much of your time, and it provides you with a very useful skill. Those of you who have not already tried to learn this, I urge you to do that. Now, I'm going to teach you something else about presentations. Anytime that you see any slide that you would like immediate access to in my presentation or any others, you can save them immediately using simple keystrokes on a Macintosh or a Windows computer. And it's what happens when you use the keystroke. You'll see your screen blink for maybe half a second, and then a screen image file will be saved on your computer of whatever is on the screen. I call this technique save now, scan later, because I recommend it for QR codes and presentations, but you can save a URL, for instance, or anything else that you think is valuable to you. I have one member of my club here in Northern Virginia who saves every slide of every presentation. He just feels that gives him the best access and reinforcement of the information for his personal use. Now, on the bottom of the screen, whenever I show a URL or a QR code, you're going to see the same reminder you see here on the bottom of this screen. For the Windows computer users at home, you hold down the Windows key and then tap print screen, which is sometimes abbreviated PRT-SCR. It's another key on your keyboard, and it saves the current screen, whatever it is, to a subfolder of pictures called screenshots. And on the Macintosh side, you hold down 2 keys, Shift key and Command, and tap the number 3, and that will save it directly to the desktop folder. And so you can, after the presentation is done, you can retrieve the image files and scan the QR codes, retype the URLs, do whatever you need to do with those files that you have saved using this method. So I'm going to show you this slide again that has the URL for the YouTube presentation, and those of you at home can save them for later use. Just use Win plus print screen if you're on a Windows computer, or on a Mac, Command plus Shift plus 3, like it says at the bottom of your screen.
I know how to do
that. Additionally, if you want to save them for club use, although I will get the PDF containing these slides to you within maybe 48 hours, depends on how long the power goes out. you can also save them on the presentation computer in your meeting room using these same keystroke combinations. All right, so here's the main topic for tonight, part 2 of Robocall Defense. And here's our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you might call how robocall systems are organized. We'll understand them a little better, and that allows us to understand the robocall defense technique. Robocall systems, how they react when a call number answers, that's very important. How they identify a disconnected number, one that doesn't answer, and how they react to that. I'm going to show you something that I created for my personal my personal smartphone number, a custom voicemail greeting. I can't show it to you, you're going to hear it. And it includes sit tones followed by my voice. And what's more, I'm going to show you how to do exactly the same thing, how to create it. And then we'll talk about how to use it through your phone to be recorded by your carrier service. All voicemail greetings are on carrier service computers, meaning AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon Wireless or whatever you're using. The reason is that way, if your phone is out of range of a cell tower or your phone is powered down for some reason, maybe you're on an aircraft, then the voicemail can be recorded and the voicemail greeting can be played and the voicemail can be recorded for you to hear later. Indeed, we're going to spend almost half of this presentation talking about how do we install that custom voicemail greeting on those servers. All right, we'll start with understanding robocall systems. We talked about this a little bit last time. Robocall systems are designed, as so many computer systems are, for time efficiency. And basically, what that means is they want to be able to dial a lot of phone numbers in a hurry. They make an assumption that some of them will not be available in one way or another. As we all know, they will call numbers ad nauseum, and if you don't answer, but the voicemail greeting is played, then they will leave a voicemail. Now, it may not make much sense because you don't hear the entire message. They start talking as soon as that phone line answers. And these are automated systems. I want to emphasize that this does not involve a human salesman. These are strictly automated messages. And robocall systems recognize any number that answers is still a valid number. And that includes going to voicemail. But calling numbers known to be not in service is simply a waste of robocall system time. When they discover a number that's not in service, they take it out of their list of active numbers. And how do they recognize that? When a robocall system dials a number that is not in service, the robocall system hears the sit tones, the same thing we talked about last time when we talked about the telezapper device. Now, robocall systems do not leave voicemail on numbers found to be disconnected. When they dial and hear those sit tones, they hang up immediately and go on to dial the next number in their list. And that is something we can take advantage of. Robocall systems delete disconnected numbers from their list of active numbers, as I just mentioned, so that they don't call again. Now, some of them, if they're especially crafty, might call again in 6 months or a year just to see if maybe the number has been assigned to somebody else. But the whole point of this slide is telezapper took advantage of that reaction to sit tones by robocall systems. It played when telezapper heard a phone line ringing, phone line that's connected to it. Telezapper would answer and play the sit tones. And of course, robocall systems would hang up immediately. Now that was for landlines. but we can take advantage of that same robocall system behavior. We can tell robocall systems that our number is disconnected using sit tones, even though it's not really disconnected. They've been lying to us for decades. Why don't we lie to them a little bit? Okay, so generally speaking, your carrier company gives you several options for your voicemail greeting. It can give you an option that is entirely automated, that just, for instance, announces your phone number, like this one that I've shown you here. Some of them also, and Verizon Wireless is one, plays a recording of you pronouncing your name, and that's used in the middle of a voicemail greeting like this. You have reached the phone of John Kraut. Please leave a message after the beep. But there's a third type, and this is the one that we're going to take advantage of. It will play a recording of whatever you want to say for your greeting, except we're going to use a computer to say it. And that allows us to include the sit tones. So here's a transcription of the voicemail greeting that I created in 2019. Hi, this is John. No, my number is not disconnected. Those tones were just meant to convince robocallers not to call me again. You can leave a message after the beep. Thank you. Okay, so that's my script. And on the next slide, you're going to hear me, or rather my recording of my combined voicemail greeting, including the sit tones and my voice.
Hi, this is John. No, my number is not disconnected. Those tones were just meant to convince robocallers not to call me again. You can leave a message after the beep. Thanks.
Okay. Now, obviously, that combined voicemail greeting had two parts. The first was the sit tones, and I found those on various websites that were created to curate all the different kinds of special information announcements that had been created by various phone companies. And I downloaded one of them, and then I worked on it to make it a little more clear, because there was a lot of noise mixed in with the sit tones. And then I used software called Audacity, which is a free download, to record my voice and add my voice to those sit tones, so that the sit tones occurred first and my voice recording occurred right after that. Now, here's what I found to be the impacts of using that custom greeting, including sit tones. First of all, the sit tones force robocall systems to hang up. And from my viewpoint, it was very important that they hang up without leaving a voicemail. And the reason is they want to get onto a line that isn't disconnected. They want to call somebody else. And they can only call so many thousands of people in a day. So they hang up immediately. And in addition, the sit tones force the robocall systems to remove my number from their active numbers list so they don't call again. Most of my friends, on the other hand, listen to the entire voicemail and leave a message. Friends who call and hang up, not leaving a voicemail, I can look at recent calls in my phone app on my phone so that I can see who called and call back the ones that I want to hear from. So it's worked out pretty well. Now, I can't remember if I explained this in part one, so I'm going to explain it now. In 2018, when I started investigating how to avoid robocalls, I was receiving roughly 25 robocall voicemails per week. Robocall voicemails were filling up my voicemail inbox. In fact, I had to clean it out twice a week. It was just because voicemail inboxes don't have a lot of space, and robocall voicemails tend to be fairly long. So I had to clean it out about twice a week just to allow other people to leave voicemails. And this was before I installed my custom voicemail greeting. about the middle of that year, I started using one of the blacklist apps that are available. This one was one that was actually pre-installed on my Verizon Wireless phone called Verizon Wireless Call Filter. And like many other apps, it attempts to use known phone numbers from which robocall systems dial to block robocalls. But it only blocked about 50% of them. I was still receiving roughly 12 robocalls per week while using that app. So I stopped using that app in July of 2019 because I figured out how to install my custom voicemail greeting that I just played for you. And after 8 months of experience with that, my rate of incoming robocalls fell to 2 per week from 25. And it's because all of the systems that had my number in their active numbers list called and heard the SIT tones and took me out of their active numbers list. There's still a few out there that were either newly created or hadn't had a reason to call recently. So that's why it didn't fall to 0, but after 8 months, it fell to 2, and it's pretty much stayed there. Now, pretty much immediately, it didn't take 8 months, my rate of robocall voicemails fell to 0 per week. So now I only have to clear out my voicemail inbox maybe once every 4 or 5 months, which is much, much less obnoxious than cleaning it out twice per week. So now we're going to talk about how to make that custom greeting that you just heard with your voice. We're going to break that creation process down into 3 parts. First, obtain the SIT tones recording. Second, record your own voice greeting. And third, combine the two. Prepare a combined greeting starting with the SIT tones followed by your voicemail greeting that you've recorded of your own voice. Now, both of these steps are really quite easy. If you have an iPhone, you already have the ability to record your own voice greeting. If you have an Android phone, there's a free app you can download to record your own voice greeting. And I'm going to show you both of those apps. But first, let's talk about the SIT tones. I took the version that you just heard in my voicemail greeting and I put it up on the web as a free download. And the word cleaned up in this case means that I removed audio noise so that the SIT tones are very clear. And here is the URL and also a QR code containing that URL. So you can either type that into your web browser in order to download the SIT tones as a WAV file, or you can scan the QR code in and we'll ask you if you want to access that web page. And when you say yes, then it will download the SIT tones WAV file. So for those of you at home on a Windows computer and on a Macintosh computer, you have that reminder at the bottom of the screen telling you how to save this slide, just in case you want to download the SIT tones after this presentation is done. Now, the first thing I should emphasize is that it helps tremendously if you write a script. You can use mine if you want. I don't object to that. But have something in writing in front of you when you begin to record your voice. And that'll make it a lot easier to make a voicemail greeting that is not full of ums and ahs and ohs and stuff like that. So you can use either the built-in recording app on an iPhone or download a voice recording app for an Android phone. I'm going to make a recommendation for you. Set the app for mono, not stereo, monophonic recording and highest quality. The reason we don't use stereo is that the phone system doesn't use stereo. Using that recording app, record your voice speaking the script. Now, mind you, If you don't feel you're comfortable with you can listen to the recording after you create it. If you feel you've made mistakes, if you don't feel comfortable with it, do it again. And once you have what you consider to be a good voicemail greeting recording of your voice, then copy the recording file from your phone to your computer. And if you download the sit tone WAV file to your phone, then copy that to your computer also, because we're going to do the work of combining the sit tones and your voice greeting using the computer. Incidentally, my black cat July is now sitting on the top of my chair right behind my shoulders. I think you won't be able to see him because of the Zoom virtual background. Okay, for Android, this is the voice recording app that I use, and it's called Voice Recorder. You see the icon on the left and one of its screens that is visible when a recording is in progress on the right. This Voice Recorder is sort of a generic name, and there are other apps named Voice Recorder available on the Play Store. But this one happens to be published by Ray Technoto Labs, so that's how you can identify it. And when you do make a recording using this app, it records them in internal storage on your Android phone in a folder it creates called Quick Voice Recorder. That's where you will find each recording that you make. And that's necessary because you have to copy it to your computer. Now, the gear button, which I circled in the upper right corner of the screen, allows you to switch between stereo and mono recording modes. And I'm pretty sure there's a quality control in there. I always have it set to highest quality. Now, this is what the app looks like when you start it on your phone screen for the first time. And there's two things I want to point out. First of all, you can see the list of recordings already made, if any. And to do that, you tap the icon in the upper right corner, which I've pointed out here, tap for files list. To record a voicemail greeting, or anything else for that matter, I use it for all sorts of notes. You tap the button shown here at the bottom center. It's a circle with a microphone in it. And you tap that to begin recording. When you are recording, the screen looks like this, and that button with the microphone has changed to a button with a square in it. It's got rounded corners, but it's basically a square. And you tap that when you're done recording. That's what concludes the recording. Once you do that tap to stop a recording, you're going to see a pop-up like this. And the only thing you can do in this is change the file name. It's giving you a default file name, the word record followed by a sequence number, and then tap the button. You don't have to change the file name, but if you want to, you can. And then you tap the save button and the pop-up goes away. Now, once you tap the files list, you're going to see a series of recordings, assuming you've made more than one. And it'll show you the duration of each one. You can tap the red button on the left side in order to play it, so you can hear what you have recorded. Now, for those of you who have iPhones, there's a folder on your iPhone called Utilities, and inside that folder, there is an app called Voice Memos. And when you tap that, you're going to see a screen like you see on the right here. And it appears, and it's sort of a combination of a files list and a recording button at the bottom, as you can see. Once you have created these files, you can save them to iCloud Drive so that you can access them from iCloud Drive on your personal computer. And it's the style in iPhones to put all settings for all apps within the settings app rather than within each individual app. So in order to make sure that you've got voice memos set to record at best quality, you go to the settings app, you find voice memos and tap on that, and you'll see a settings screen for voice memos that allows you to alter the audio quality to lossless, which is the best quality possible. Now here are the here's the initial screen, and I've pointed out the recording button here. When you are recording, it looks like this. It'll give you the name for the new recording. It'll tell you how long it's recording. It'll show you sort of an oscilloscope graph of the sound that it has recorded. And the button changes to a square stop button. When you have finished reading your script, you tap that button to stop the recording. It will automatically appear in the recordings list. Whenever you see one in the recordings list, you can tap it to open controls like you see here for new recording 12. And you can tap the triangular button to begin playback. So you can hear what you said and decide if it's good enough. And if it's not, you can try it again. Okay. Now, once you have got the sit tones and your voice recording file, both of those files on your computer, I suggest you keep them both in one folder that you might call combined voicemail greeting, for instance. And what I'm going to recommend is that you use an application called VLC. Now, that is a media player application that is free. I'm going to show you how to download it. Its icon appears here on the right. Why they chose a traffic cone, I will never know. It is just one of those puzzles. And it is available for Windows computers, Macintosh computers, and Linux computers. Here's the URL of the website from which you can download for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And yes, that URL is in the QR code. So again, this may be a slide that you wish to save now so that you can use it after this presentation. Okay, here's the website for VLC, that URL that I just showed you. And it has a big button. Now, this website figures out which version you need based on what operating system your browser is running on. So it will tell you just below the big orange button that I circled here, which operating system it thinks you're using. And in my case, it was quite right, Windows 64-bit. And if you get on instead with a Mac, it'll tell you it thinks you want the Mac version. Most of the time, it's absolutely accurate. Now, what you're going to see is some screenshots that I captured on my Windows 11 computer, the same one I'm using tonight, to show you this presentation. The version I used of VLC is 3.0.16. The version that's currently downloadable for Windows 11 is 3.0.18. I think, and in fact, their website says the only changes are minor bug fixes. So it should look just like what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to show you how to add and play digital audio WAV files. The steps should be the same on Apple or Linux computers, except you won't be using Windows File Explorer to find and transfer the files. So here's VLC on the left. It normally fills your screen when you start it. I shrank it down to a window because I wanted to show you both the audio files in Windows Explorer on the right and VLC on the left. VLC, when you start it, has a largely empty white space, and it has instructions in it. I know they're hard to read on this screen, but I'm going to show you a greatly magnified version on the next screen. And well, of course, I already pointed out the digital audio files. So here's the instructions. That big arrow with sort of a dotted line around it has instructions, and I highlighted the most important 4 words in the entire instructions. Drop a file here. You can drop more than one. And indeed, if you drop 2, it will show them to you in the order that you dropped them. So we want to drop the sit tile, the sit file first, and our voicemail greeting file second. So another way to look at it, grab the sit tones file, which happens to be on the right here in the Windows Explorer, Windows File Explorer, and drag that to the white space above the down arrow in VLC. The second thing you want to do is grab your voicemail greeting and drag that. Now, in Windows at least, when you do this, you're making copies. You're not actually removing the sit tones from the folder where you stored them, or your voicemail greeting for that matter. What VLC does is actually keep pointers back to those files in your folder. And this is what they look like when they appear in the white space in VLC. Now, that white space is known as the playlist. And a playlist is simply a list of audio files to be played in a sequence. So here, we've got the sit tones first, because I dragged it first. And we got my voicemail greeting second, because I dragged it second. And that's what a playlist looks like when it's not empty. I've got a playlist of Christmas holiday music that's about 6 hours long. Now, it's got a lot more than 2 in it, but the point is you can use VLC for all sorts of purposes. Now, I strongly suggest that you should use VLC to save what's called a playlist file, which keeps that list in the order that you intend to use it, again, just in case you want to do something else with it on a different day. So you select the VLC media menu. It pops down as you see here. And in that pop-down menu, select Save Playlist to File. When you do that, your computer will open up its standard file save dialog box. And that looks different depending on whether you're using Windows or Linux or Macintosh. I strongly suggest you save the playlist to the folder containing the 2 audio files, so you can find all of that. And the cool thing about a playlist is that when you want to hear it again, you simply drag it again from the folder and drop it in the newly opened VLC player. Now, the next thing you need to know is how to start the playback. And here I've pointed out 2 buttons at the bottom left corner of the VLC media player window, which are used for playback. And we're going to look at, there's actually several buttons down there. They have a number of different uses, but we're going to show you 2 that are especially valuable for our purpose of playing a combined voicemail greeting into our phone. First of all, there's the play button, a triangular button. And the first time you load your files into a playlist, or whenever you find, again, you need to play those 2 files, start up VLC and tap, once the files are in the playlist window or playlist pane within VLC, then you tap the play button. Now, once you've done that once, it turns out there's a different button to play it again. And that's restart playback, which I've just pointed to. For some reason, when you hit play and then you hit play again, it plays the last song that it played or the last audio file that it played. I don't know why they chose to do that, but nonetheless, if you want to play it more than once, then now you know you hit the restart play button and it'll do the second and third and fourth and however many other times you need to play it. Okay, now this is the part where I'm going to use some waffle words. And the reason is very simple. Different phone systems and different carriers have different ways of allowing you to install a custom combined voicemail greeting. You need to find out which of the, if it has a menu of different greeting types, you need to find out which item in the menu you select in order to record your own voicemail greeting end to end. As I mentioned earlier, the greetings reside on the servers of the carrier companies for a very good reason, so they can play it when your phone is out of touch with the carrier system. And they play it even when your phone is turned off so that people can leave you messages. Now, the carrier companies, unfortunately, do not permit uploading an audio file to use as a voicemail greeting. I used to teach people how to create such a file, but it's not really necessary using this approach with VLC. We're going to learn 3 different ways to speak our combined greeting so the phone can hear it and record it onto the phone carrier servers. And you're going to have to figure out how to do that part on your phones. Unfortunately, I can only tell you how to do it on an Android phone on Verizon Wireless, and I don't believe enough people in the audience have that combination so that I should spend any time on it. So I'm basically telling you this one part, how to work through the menus in your phone app in order to record a custom greeting. You have to figure that out. In addition, 2 phones on the same carrier, Android and iPhone, may have different techniques. I don't know that for sure. So you need to learn and practice the method for your carrier company on your phone before you try to record the combined greeting on your carrier servers. There are 3 ways to speak the combined greeting, and I'm going to tell you right now, I think most of you are going to use the first method because it's by far the easiest. All use a personal computer and the VLC application to play the combined greeting, which we just created. And the phone must be set to record a voicemail greeting before you hit play on the computer. The lo-fi method is very simple. It's the same method I used in 1963 when I had a tiny little open reel recorder to record the Beatles performing on the Ed Sullivan Show. Wasn't a very good recording. Hold the phone close to a computer speaker, hit the play button on the hit the record button on the phone and the play button on the computer, and the phone will hear the voicemail greeting. I call it lo-fi because there's inherently some issues. No speaker is good enough to accurately produce everything in the recording. There is a method that gives you a much better recording quality, and I call it cash out of pocket. It involves buying some cables. In particular, the single most expensive one is called an attenuator cable, and I'll explain why that's necessary. But there's an even easier high fidelity way to using Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, right now, that method is only available for Android phones, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. It involves 2 applications. One is an app you put on your phone, and another one is a related app you put on your computer. The one on the computer captures the audio of whatever's playing, VLC or anything else, and sends it to the phone. And the phone receives it if it's running the related app for doing so. Here are the 2 apps that I found I've had great success with. The first one is called Soundwire Server, that runs on Windows computers and some others, but not Macintosh, alas. And the second one is a phone app. The icon at the bottom right corner shows you the icon for SoundWire Free. These two are related. They're both published by the same publisher. And they're both free. When you use them, your phone and your computer must be on the same local area network. Now, that in particular means if you use what's called a virtual private network, or VPN, on your phone or your computer or both, you have to shut them down. Okay, now how to retain, first of all, the app, SoundWire Free. It's a pretty unique name. If you open the Play Store on your Android computer and type that name in, you'll the top of the search results will show you the app. But if you wish to scan the QR code that will give you the option to open that page in the Play Store app, you can save this page now and use it after the presentation is done. So I've got the same reminders at the bottom of the screen for that purpose. Now, for the other part, the part that runs on the computer, it's available from this URL, georgielabs.net. And you're seeing the page that appears when you use that URL here on the screen also. Let's see here. It supports Windows, including Windows 11. It supports various versions of Linux, and it supports Raspberry Pi. It doesn't do Mac, I'm sorry. I did try another version, another app on Mac that might have accomplished it. It's called Airfoil, but that one does not. I had some long sequence of emails with the publisher of Airfoil trying to talk them into making it work like SoundWire works, but they said they couldn't do it. So you here in this page, you click on the version for your personal computer operating system. It does not sense that operating system in advance. That will download the app to your computer, and then you use normal techniques for installing it on your computer. Now, when you run SoundWire Server, it looks like this, at least on my computer. The first thing I did was circle some information that's provided, which is the server IP address. And that is useful in some circumstances. We'll show you how to do so. The second thing you find on the screen is this word in red, disconnected. That is normal when you start up SoundWire Server. Do not panic. Now, on your phone, when you start SoundWire Free, it looks like this. And you tap and hold the big button after you started SoundWire Server on your computer. You tap this big button for about 1/3 of a second, and it makes an attempt to find the computer on which SoundWire Server runs. It may succeed. Once in a while, it doesn't. And for that, the next field below the big button allows you to type in the server IP address that was shown to you by SoundWire Server. You type that in the field labeled server, and then tap and hold the big button again, and they'll connect. But like I said, it isn't guaranteed that you'll need to do that. Most of the time, SoundWire Free and SoundWire Server will find each other without your help, and so you won't need to type in the IP address. When they do connect on SoundWire Server on your computer, you will see the word connected appear like I just showed you. Once you've done that, I suggest you do a test. Here's how you do it. Start recording on your phone using the voice recorder app or whatever alternative you have. Play the playlist using VLC. Make sure you hear it played on the phone. It may be delayed slightly, maybe about 1/4 of a second. it will come out of the phone speakers. Once you've done that, then the next time, use the recording app, start that, then play the playlist using VLC. And make sure that you hear the playlist, the sit tones followed by your voice on the phone. You can record that with voice recorder, and voice recorder has a nice oscilloscope graph, so you can make sure that it's coming in loud and clear on your phone. So you play back the test recording that you've made on the phone, and what I found was that the microphones on my phone remained live while I was doing the test recording, and that meant they picked up not just the sound coming in via sound wire through the LAN, but also any ambient noises like a fan, like my son coming down the stairs to my basement, even UPS trucks going by if they're particularly loud. So you can hear all of that. Not only that, but ambient noise can include your computer speakers. So you hear the sound of your sit tones and your voice kind of echoed because they get picked up by the microphones. So here's what I recommend you do. Disconnect or mute your speakers on your computer. Block the microphones on your phone using masking tape or electrical tape or bandage tape. And retry a test recording. And I think you'll find that you've cleared it up. It'll be nice and distinct with no echoes. Now we're going to talk about cash out of pocket. And this is the method that I actually used in mid-2019 when I finally created and recorded my combined voicemail greeting. This does something different. And initially I was using my prior Android phone that had a headset socket on it. And I used a system that would not only send the audio from the computer through cables to my phone, but also allowed me to hear it so I could tell when to stop the recording on the phone. In other words, I dial in so the phone carrier would start recording my greeting. Then I'd hit play on the computer so the audio would transfer to my phone. And when the audio stopped, I could hit stop on the phone. But there's sort of a gotcha, and it's this. Connecting an audio cable to computer's audio output socket disconnects audio output to your computer speakers. And if that audio is hooked to your phone, it disconnects audio output from your phone speakers. It also disconnects the microphone on your phone. Now, I'm going to show you a cable arrangement that allows you to listen using earbuds or headphones. So that's, and that adds a little bit to the cost of the cables. So in addition to the attenuator that I mentioned earlier, you're going to use an on-the-go cable, also called OTG, plus an audio adapter so that you can plug in the cable, the attenuated cable from the computer through the audio adapter and the OTG cable to your phone. So here's the overall wiring summary. First of all, we connect an attenuator cable to your computer. Now, the reason we're doing that is the audio coming out of the computer is at a high level that is appropriate for headphones, earbuds, or computer speakers. It's called line level. And what your phone expects is at a voltage level that is about 500 times lower, known as microphone level. So at the other end, the attenuator manages to reduce the voltage. It uses some built-in resistors to do that. And you plug that into the pink microphone input socket on an audio adapter like the one you see here. Now, I'm going to show you in a few minutes where you can buy these things and roughly how much they cost, because the cost varies a little bit. There's another connector on the USB audio adapter that's labeled green, and to that you can connect earbuds or headphones so that you can listen while the computer is playing the combined greeting into the phone. We haven't done it completely yet. We haven't hooked up the phone. Here's how we do that. This is what's called an OTG cable. And it has a socket for the USB connector that is on the audio adapter. And it has at the other end a plug that plugs into the charging plug, which is a USB plug on your phone. And I'm going to show you OTG cables like this one that'll plug into recent model Android phones that have a USB-C socket. An older OTG cable that will plug into an older Android phone that has a micro USB socket, and an OTG cable for iPhones that has a lightning socket. Okay, so OTG cable can be used for a lot of things, and I think it's a very worthwhile investment. You can connect a lot of different things to your phone. One of the things I was most charmed by was connecting a mouse, because when I did that and I moved the mouse, a mouse pointer showed up on my phone, and that happened both on my Android phone and on my iPhone. But you can also connect a keyboard. You can connect an audio adapter like you just saw. There's a lot of different things you can connect. It's even possible to connect it to Ethernet through that OTG cable. And if you use what's called a USB hub, you can connect many such peripherals at once to your phone. Now, OTG cables don't work on every ancient phone. Very old versions of the Android operating system do not support OTG. Very old versions of the iPhone do not support OTG. However, I did test an OTG cable on an iPhone 5, and it worked, but it demanded that I add power. My iPhone 10 does not make that demand because it's got a bigger battery. Free apps can tell you whether or not your phone is compatible with OTG. Just type in OTG checker in the App Store or the Play Store, and you'll find those. And as I mentioned earlier, the exact OTG cable you need depends on the USB charging socket built into your phone. So here's the one that I showed you earlier. It's now sold as a pair by the brand JSAUX on Amazon. As of March 31, the price was $9.99. Here's the URL for that product page, and here is the QR code containing that URL. You can save this page now so you can use it later. Okay, for older Android phones, this one worked with my, let's see here, what was it? Samsung Galaxy S7. This is the brand of this cable is Ugreen, and it's as of right now, as of April 1, it was $6.99 on Amazon. Here is the URL for that product page on Amazon, and of course, a QR code containing that URL. You can save this page too for use later, as indicated at the bottom. Here's an OTG cable with a lightning plug. It's available on Amazon for $8.99 as of April 1. And here's the URL and the QR code. So you can save this page now so that you can make use of that information later on after the presentation. Just by the way, I'm going to show all these pages again at the end of the presentation, all the product pages. Here's the USB audio adapter. It's made by Sabrent, and it has the connectors that I mentioned, a pink one for the attenuator cable, green socket for earbuds, a USB plug for connection to an OTG cable. And it was $8.99 on Amazon as of March 31. Here's the URL and the QR code containing that URL for that product page. You can save this now for use later on after the presentation. I briefly described the attenuator cable previously. I'll just go over it again. The information coming out of the computer is at line level, otherwise known as 2 volts peak to peak. And that, of course, is what's just fine for earbuds, headphones, or computer speakers, but not for providing audio into a microphone socket. Microphone sockets are designed for much lower audio at the level, as you might guess, provided by microphones. So you try to stuff line level through that pink connector on the audio adapter, it's not going to sound good. It has a lot of distortion in it. And the attenuator cable reduces the line level to microphone level, which is appropriate for the microphone input. So here is a magnified version of the attenuator cable. It has 2 plugs. On the left, the one with 2 black rings is for line output level from your computer. On the right, the one with 3 black rings is to plug into the pink socket on the USB audio adapter. And when connected, this cable will disable the computer speakers and the smartphone speakers. So you have no way to hear what's going on unless you use the green connector on the audio adapter to connect earbuds or a headset or old style headphones. Here's where you could buy it. Part number is FE.ADT.385. It was out of stock for about 2 years during the pandemic, like so many other things, but it is now available and has been for, about a year. It's roughly $15, including shipping. And this will take you right to the product page and this URL, and you can scan the QR code to go there as well. This is another page that you may wish to save now so that you can make use of it after the presentation. This method works whether or not your phone has a headset socket. My Galaxy S20 that I bought last December does not have a headset socket. iPhone eliminated those a few years ago. As I mentioned earlier, you either use the voice recorder app on Android phones or the voice memo app on iPhones to make test recordings before you attempt to transmit your combined greeting to your carrier company. You want to test it first to make sure you're getting a good, strong audio recording on your phone. I could not actually do a complete installation on my iPhone 10 because that phone is retired. Also, I used this cable method with my Android phone before I found and tested the SoundWire alternative, the Wi-Fi technique. And I had an interesting experience. The first 2 times I recorded the combined greeting using the phone with the attenuator cable, the audio level was too low for the Verizon Wire server to recognize. So when I called the number of my phone to confirm that I would hear my custom combined voicemail greeting, what I heard instead was the announcement number 1 that announces only the phone number. You have reached whatever, please leave message. So keep that in mind. If that happens to you, then you can use the computer's volume control, the VLC application volume control, and the phone's volume control to adjust volume up or down. Okay, now, one other thing. Some people have asked, is there robocall events for landlines? Well, for one thing, you can still buy a telezapper and connect it to your landline. It is available on Amazon. Now, unfortunately, well, we'll talk about the pricing in a minute. If your landline has an answering service or an answering machine, you could use the custom voicemail greeting that we have created on the answering service or the answering machine. If your landline phone has a headset socket, you can use the attenuator cable to speak your custom voicemail greeting through that phone by connecting the attenuator cable to that headset socket. If not, then realistically, for recording the custom voicemail greeting, you're limited to the lo-fi method, where you hold the phone up to a computer speaker and then play and record and so forth. Whatever you have to do to record the thing and make it heard through the phone. So here's a rehash of the various product pages I've shown you. Here's the SitTones WAV file that you can download. And I've used short URLs for all of these because the original URL I put this file up on Google Drive, and believe me, the Google Drive URL for this is something like 85 characters long, and you don't want to type that in, and I don't want you to either. Here's georgielabs.net. As I mentioned, this is where you can, for those of you who have an Android, if you want to use SoundWire, this is where you get the computer application. SoundWire free. Here's this. I use the word down instead of download. I think I need to fix that in the blue pointers. You can scan the QR code to download SoundWire free. You can scan the second QR code to download Voice Recorder, both from the Play Store, and which means you have to scan them using your phone. And you can save this page too for scanning later on at your convenience after the presentation. Here's the CableMart.com attenuator cable. Slightly different version of the product page this time, but you can also scan the QR code to get there. Save this page too if you wish. Here's the first of the 3 OTG cables. This is the one that has a USB-C plug on it for recent Android phones. Incidentally, a little hint of things to come. Apple has agreed with the European Union to start using USB-C connectors instead of Lightning on their iPhones. So it's not this year, but I think the next time that an iPhone is released, you'll find it has a USB-C plug on it. It turns out iPads already have them. Here's the cable for older Android phones with a micro USB socket or plug on it. Here's the one for current iPhones with a Lightning plug on it. You can save this page too. And here's the USB audio adapter that we talked about. The major point of using the OTG cable and the audio adapter is allow you to listen to the audio being transferred while it is being transferred. And that's what the green socket is for. Here's Telezapper. Now, here's a story. When I bought Telezapper, it was $19.99. That was the suggested retail, and I bought it at Best Buy. It's now available on Amazon. Best Buy doesn't have it anymore. The company that makes it, Privacy Technologies, is out of business. And that's why the price went up, because there's limited stock and it's not going to be available. There is another model that is shaped like a tube. Its model number is TZ900. It gets horrible reviews. I suggest you not buy that one. And that's it. I'm going to end the screen share, and I can tackle your questions. Let's see here. There's the mouse pointer. Stop share. There we go.